Everybody. So one of the questions I'm often asked as I drink my McCafe, my partner will kill me. She's Italian, and I'm drinking a latte from McDonald's. So there you go. But good morning. One of the questions that I'm often asked is just about my direct experience with the properties that I've done to date. So I thought I'd take a little bit of time to kind of walk you through it and just to talk about them and to go into as much detail as I can about each of those property deals. So I first got into property investing because my dad, surprise surprise, he has worked. He retired recently at Heathrow Airport for like probably the last 30 to 40 years. He drove one of those HGV trucks, heavy goods vehicles, in the catering section. He'd take his food catering from the depot to the actual plane, and then load the transport. So I've grown up around my dad basically sitting and reading like the local Gazette, the Sunday Times. Well, not the Sunday Times. There'll be the local rag. We grew up near Heathrow Airport, and he'll be just looking at the property sections. Okay, he'll be just looking at property, and this was a big thing that my dad in his downtime would daydream. I say daydream. He'd look at properties that he'd love to have the potential to buy. He found the whole thing so interesting. So that's kind of been in my mind from when I was a little kid. Basically, my dad looking through properties and just talking about, oh, maybe we could look at this, maybe we could look at that. My family moved over from India in the 60s. Grew up first in Southall. There was like my granddad, my mum, my dad, all of them were living in a house in Southall. Eventually, my parents got a council house near Heathrow Airport. They That was the house that I was born in. They were eventually able to buy that council house, a little bit like the government for help scheme, but after about 15 to 20 years of living in the house. Don't quote me on those years, but they're still in the same place that they got through the council. I mean, there's still a lot of council houses in that area. I think that a lot of people did something similar. So my dad has always been fascinated about property, but my dad came from India in search of a better life. And if I'm being honest, he never really had opportunity financially. He probably wasn't earning more than 20, 22 grand for a long time, probably a lot less than that. Growing up, we had governmental support. We got kind of bursaries and this and that. Council house, there's five of us. I'm the youngest. Big sis, who's Canty, and brother-in-law Steve. He'll know full well this story, but Big sis would bunk with four people in a room. My twin sisters and my grandma and my little my other sister. So it's um it's just been an amazing experience, I think, over the last probably 10 years, when my dad was able, after years of saving, to actually buy his first ever investment property. It was a buy to let. This is after like 30, 40 years of work. Like, you save up your pennies and your pans. And my dad would often talk about, well, Vikram at work, or William, or Atit has made these investments in these properties. And I just grew up with this mantra in my head that properties was the safe way to go, and that's what you invest in if you're looking for long-term security. And it was just an amazing experience to see my dad be able to pick up a place before is it HS2 or the Crossrail came in, and to get a place, not really knowing about that, but to see a huge bump in the value of his property, to go through the experience of getting a second property, and to really be a multiple property owner. It's yeah, just God, I feel a bit it's my dad is someone that I'm incredibly proud of, and I he's done everything for him, and my mum have done so much for our family. He's never kind of complained or been frustrated with the fact that he's worked in the same job for the last 40 years, doing shift work, 6, 7 days a week sometimes, 8, 12-hour days to put food on the table. And him being able to get that property was such an amazing feeling for him. And what's followed is the recognition that, he's at a stage in his life where he hasn't got enough of, perhaps, an income, or he's at an age also heading into retirement where getting more properties beyond that is not a realistic part of his future alone, at least. And I love my dad, and I really want to help him with his. It's just amazing to help someone else's ambitions come true, right? If you know what I mean. You got people around you that you love. You want to do everything you can to see them ascend and rise. And my dad's given me everything that I have. The fact that I'm in the UK, the fact that I'm in London, the fact that I could be here with you right now. So I was meant to be talking about my properties, and I will, but I wanted to say that being able now to have my dad join me on this journey, like one of the so the first property that I bought was a property that I remember my mum and dad called me because they'd been on the bus on the way home. They got their OAP pass now that they're both like pensioners, or of 65 plus, and you get, or 60 plus or something, but you get free transport basically on local buses. So my mum and dad don't use the car to save money, and they were like, my mum rang me, was like, Deepak, we saw a property that was 5 minutes from where we live. So literally, it's a 5-minute walk from my mum and dad's place. And my mum was so excited to share this with me. And at that time, this was maybe 2 years ago now. 2 years ago, I'd already had an experience. If you have a look at the why I started Pearl Lemon Properties, you hear about my off-plan property experience, which was a disaster. But my parents, my mum and dad were so excited. They were like, "Oh, I think they'd already organised a viewing. Maybe they'd already even looked at it." So basically, that was a crazy, crazy palaver, because my mum effectively was so excited. And my mum doesn't call me. If you know my mum's not going to ring me to see how I am. My mum has figured out how to use WhatsApp. She's figured out how to use voice notes, and she's become decently good at being like, "Hey son, it's me and your dad, just checking in how you are." But that took a couple of years. At that time, 2 years ago, nothing. I just hear from the odd, like, "I've not heard from you for 10 days." So it's for my mum to call me. I got really worried. I answered the phone. She's excited about this property. Now I'm a mummy's boy. I'll go and visit my parents once a week. I'll go there, in the morning at like 10 o'clock, and I'll come back in the evening about 7, 8 o'clock. So as per my weekly visit, we organised a viewing. Now this flat is 210, or is it 215 grand, something like that. So we did a viewing. It wasn't part of my plan to get this, but gosh, the look on my parents' faces when we were walking around it, the fact that my mum could get out of her house, or my family house, and then just walk across the road to this property was incredible. I just, it still brings a smile to my face right now. So that was, and there was many moments and palavers in between that, but that was the moment when I realized that I can help my dad fulfill something that he's always loved and always cared about, if I can go on this property journey with him. And in some ways, that's really why I am here where I am, and that's really why I want to build a property portfolio. My dad is the manager of that property. We've got an estate agent, but my dad will go there to check on Karen, to see how she's doing, to fix a broken doorbell, to deal with the hole in the ceiling. We're in the flat upstairs, and there was a hole in her floor, the downstairs neighbour's ceiling, to deal with the issues of getting a plumber out, to deal with getting a dodgy plumber out, and to just be there back and forth, and to be on top of issues with the who pays the council tax bill, because just lots of random issues. And I just see how happy it makes my dad, and I see how happy that that makes me. And that was a real challenge getting that property. I was going to get it as jointly with my dad. Then it turns out my dad's visa's expired, and it's not been renewed. And it's like, you need to renew your visa, otherwise you need to leave the country. He's been here for like 30, 40 years. Couldn't get the property with him. Had to do it under my own name. That was an absolute nightmare because I was a first time buyer. I had a business that was running for less than 2 years. I only went in expecting to go half off with my dad on the deposit, so like maybe 35 grand each. I ended up spending like 75 grand with all of the lawyer's fees and broker's fees and stamp duty, all of that put together. And I was like, bloody hell. Property almost didn't go through because of all of these delays and all of these problems. Set up a company called Shukla and Sons Property Limited. We're going to do it with my dad. That fell through. Set up another company, Deepak Shukla Property Limited, which eventually the company, the transaction went through on. And it's just been an incredible journey, like that property singularly. And now, my dad's going to be my property manager. I've got the five at the moment that I spoke of, and I've organised saying to my dad, look, they're up north, but can you organise the phone calls with the estate agents, with the the local plumber, or the grounds company for the ground rent and all of this kind of stuff. So I can definitely say that property purchase, which was arduous, which was challenging, which was complicated, was seminal, or instrumental is probably the better word, in deciding and determining that, wow, you know what, I want to do this again and again, because I can help give my dad that it's just that moment that where he had said that, oh, Deepak, I'm too old to get buy to let properties on my own, or I'm too old for this. And I I want to just continue that journey, and to see. That's my cat in the background, by the way. Jenny, you'll meet her at one point. Just that opportunity to put a smile on my dad's face, to see that I can make him proud with something that he's always wanted, and to join, to be together on that journey. I've always wanted to have a family business that isn't a corner shop, and I think this is it. I think Pearl Lemon Properties is it. I think that my dad managing my personal portfolio, I've already said, Dad, I'll give you 500 quid a month to manage my 5 properties, and we'll scale it up, 100 quid per property, maybe more. Who knows? Maybe I'm ripping, but just to be able to give my dad something to do in his retirement, to be able to continue building property portfolio, to and that was experience one. There's been two, three, four, five, working with different property sources, with the mortgage brokers, and buying properties in cash and how it actually works, and the back and forth I have with my brokers about the threshold for where you can get an actual loan at the 50k mark, and then properties below like 120, 130k for no stamp duty, and all of the things that you learn along the way. I'm just excited to be able to hopefully share with you guys. So, my dad has been my inspiration for my property journey, and I guess I should rename this video to reflect the fact that it's really about why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I hope that makes sense. Sis, if you're watching, don't make fun of me. Dad, I love you lots, and everybody, let's help you build your property portfolio. Thanks, guys.